I was going to do this presentation on Zoom, but it keeps crashing. And I wanted to get this information together so that you could take a look at it. And so we'll do it like this. I put the slides in an album called Vaccine Safety. So if you want to follow along with what I'm talking about, or if you want to go back and take a look at the slides, there's a lot of information in them. All right, so I'm going to start out with the agenda is introduction for those of you who don't know me, don't know my story. We're going to talk about the current vaccination schedule, what is in a vaccination. We're going to talk about puppy shots, which are completely different from the adult shots, core versus non-core vaccinations, and there's a whole list of those. We're going to talk about vaccinating sick dogs, vaccine reactions, 13 safer ways to vaccinate, titer testing, no-sodes, detoxing, and essential oils, for those of you here who like to use essential oils. All right, so let's get started. Introduction, my name is Sherry Willingham. I am an animal lover, all animals. I rescue senior dogs. I adopt senior dogs. That's my favorite, to get them back to health. I am a mother and a grandmother. I'm a doTERRA wellness advocate. I'm a natural health enthusiast, and I am a very passionate sharer of information. And so I want to put out there, before I start talking about my story or anything else, I am not a medical practitioner. I have no medical background. I am simply a mom who loves to learn and loves to help our loved ones, 2- and 4-legged, to be healthier, so that they're happier, so that we can all live longer. Okay. So again, my name is Sherry Willingham. I have been with doTERRA for about 6 years now, and I'm not going to be talking about essential oils with the vaccinations, but I need to tell my story so that you can understand why I am here talking about this. So about 11 years ago, I started getting these abscesses on my face, under my arms, on my back, and I had them cultured, and it was MRSA, which is the antibiotic-resistant staph infection. And so for 2 years, I was on antibiotics, and we tried all of them, and I had allergic reactions to them. And so after 2 years, and I was still having these abscesses, I was down to 2 antibiotics that were left that I could take. One of them was intravenous, and I said, this isn't working, and I'm not getting a different answer from you, and I know that there's something else out there. I know that there's something else I can be doing. So I stopped taking the medications, and I started doing research, and I found these pharmaceutical grade essential oils that could help with the MRSA, and I followed the instructions on this website that I found. And I used them, and the MRSA went away. I never got MRSA back. I don't take antibiotics anymore. And I learned from that experience what I want to talk to you about, and that is the immune system. The antibiotics, I just take them. The doctor gives them to me. I take them. I feel better. Everything's good. Never stop to think about what is the reason or why they work. So the reason they work is because they kill the bacteria, but not only do they kill the bad bacteria that is causing the illness, they kill the good bacteria too. And it's the good bacteria in our gut that is our immune system. And so having a strong immune system will help us to stay healthy. All right. So that's how I got started on this train. And so I started taking better care of myself. Hi, Krista. Hi, Lisa. I started taking better care of myself and realizing that the most important thing was my gut health and keeping my immune system strong. So that was my focus. So while I'm doing that, and you can't see the pictures, but I was working at the local animal shelter, and my boy Barney came into the shelter. He was 62 pounds, and he had every infection and every parasite. He was a mess. He had fleas jumping off of him, and so of course when they come into the shelter, we don't know what their history is, and obviously, you know, they need some help. So they get the Capstar, they get the vaccinations, they basically get assaulted with poisons. I hadn't figured out yet that I need to do the same thing with my animals that I do with myself. So fast forward 7 years, and I've learned about species appropriate diets. I've learned about the flea and tick medications, and I know, I'm not sure why, but I know that the vaccinations are going to tax his immune system. So I'm really very strong with the vets about him not getting unnecessary vaccinations because his immune system is weak. He's been on so many medications. He has arthritis and blah, blah, blah. All right. So I'll tell you the reason that I'm here. And it started about 3 days ago. I am really careful with my animals about medication, about vaccinations. I question everything for them. But 3 days ago, I was in a group with a German Shepherd, 3-year-old German Shepherd that had cancer and liver failure. And in talking to the pup's dad, asking him questions, I found out that this 3-year-old beautiful German Shepherd named Charlie has been sick for a couple months. He's been on antibiotics for a UTI, but they're not really sure if it's a UTI. It's just he's having a lot of problems with lethargy and eating, and he's leaking urine, and so they're giving him, you know, different antibiotics, 3 different rounds. During that time, he got all of his vaccinations, and it actually stopped me cold when he said that, because that's the last thing that this poor puppy needed. And for him to have acute kidney failure at 3 years old out of nowhere, I can't think of anything else could cause that. So that's why I decided I have to put something together, and I have to learn as much as I can about vaccinations, and then I need to tell everybody who will listen to why it's important for us to know exactly what's going on and question it and be our animals' advocates. Okay, so the vaccination schedule, I posted that earlier today, just so that we could have the conversation about it. And I had some people almost lose their cookies because they thought I was promoting it. But there is a vaccination schedule that veterinarians follow. Do all of them follow it? No. Is it the standard? It is. And so am I going to assume that when I go into vet's office that they're going to be following this? I'm not going to be surprised. Okay. So one of the reasons that we need to question what's going on is because we are looking at what is in a vaccination. All right. One of the things that companies do, and this is in the products, the home products, the beauty products, they like to call ingredients proprietary so that they don't have to disclose the ingredients. And the FDA allows it. So because some of the vaccination ingredients are a proprietary blend, they don't have to disclose what's in it, which is maddening. But there are certain ingredients that a lot of the vaccinations have. And if you want to look at the slide that I did on that, it'll go into details. So there's the adjuvants, preservatives, attenuating agents, which is formaldehyde. Attenuating, oh, I just said that. The growth medium. This is where they grow the vaccination on another animal tissue, and so part of what's being injected is the animal tissue, and the problem with that is that we're injecting a different species into our animal, which our bodies are not meant to process, or our pets' bodies are not meant to process. There are fungicides and antimicrobials. We have buffering agents, which are not natural. Stabilizers, again, formaldehyde. Surfactants, permeability enhancer. That can't be good because I don't even know what the heck it is. Virus particles. So we have the modified live or killed. And again, these come from animal tissues that are used to grow the vaccines. And then the last one is other contaminants, like if you're growing the tissue from another animal, whatever they ate has GMOs, and so the list goes on and on with the chemicals. All right. Next is puppy shots. So there's always a question about, how many rounds and boosters and 4 months, 6 months, 2 months, what's the deal with that? So it's important to understand that a puppy's immune system is not fully mature until they're around 6 months of age. And assuming that they have been able to nurse from their mother, they're going to have the maternal antibodies. That's called passive immunity, and that is why it's important for them to stay with their mom, get the colostrum, and all of that. So when a puppy is vaccinated during that time, they still have the maternal antibodies, and they get the vaccination, and then those antibodies will inactivate the vaccine, just like they would if there was something that infected the puppy. So there's a window of time when the maternal antibodies are weak enough that the vaccinations can be injected, and the puppy's immune system won't deactivate it. The problem with when they get the vaccinations is that the adjuvants are designed to stimulate an exaggerated immune system response. So that heightened reaction can cause autoimmune disorders. And we'll talk some more about some other things to consider. But that's a whole area of interest. Again, I have the senior dog, so it's not something that I personally have to deal with, but something that is good to research and not just ask somebody for their opinion, unless it's a holistic vet. All right, so now we're going to talk about the difference between core and non-core vaccinations. Core vaccinations are the ones that all dogs are at risk of getting these diseases. And so we know that that's the parvovirus, distemper, the canine hepatitis, and rabies. And it's also really important to note that rabies is the only one of those by law that your pup has to have. So if you decide for the reason that you're the pet owner and it's your decision to not get those other vaccinations, there's not a problem with that. There's no fine that goes along with that. There's no licensing problem that goes along with that. The only one that you have to have is rabies. All right. So these core vaccinations, once they get the vaccinations, they are covered for between 7 and 15 years. And there are clinical studies that show that they have protection against disease. So if your dog has had the core vaccinations around 16 weeks of age, he's most likely protected from those diseases for his entire life, which totally goes against that whole vaccination schedule that we talked about. Again, rabies is the only one that is legally required. Okay, so now I want to talk about something that doesn't get a lot of discussion, and it's vaccinosis, which is related to rabies. It's chronic and acute damage associated with the rabies vaccine, and it is frightening. There are more minor things that can come, vomiting, diarrhea, lethargy, but then there are long-term things like allergies and cancer. They can get seizures up to a week later, shock, the list goes on and on. And so vaccinosis is really serious, and it means that we have to be really careful when we are getting the rabies shot for our animal. We want to know if it's the right time, the right place, the animal's in the right health. Some breeds are especially sensitive to vaccinosis, so you want to look into that too, depending on what what breed your dog is. The other thing about rabies is they're starting to offer thimerosal-free vaccines. It's TF on the box, and that has to do with mercury-free. So unless you specifically ask for it, you will have mercury injected along with the rabies vaccination. Not cool. There are currently 18 states that accept a medical exemption or waiver for the rabies shot. I have gotten the waiver for a couple of my dogs, and it's something that, you know, if there's an underlying medical condition, you can ask your vet to give you the exemption instead of giving the animal the rabies vaccination, and that will cover them for the licensing. Okay. Next is the non-core vaccinations. These get even scarier if that's possible. There is the Bordetella, the canine influenza, the lepto, and what's the last one? Oh, the Lyme disease vaccination. So Bordetella is kennel cough. It's kind of like us having a cold, and that vaccination is not necessary unless your animal is going to be around a lot of dogs all the time. Some boarding facilities ask for Bordetella, some grooming places do. I have gone to a boarding and told them that I don't give those vaccinations to my animals, and they said that I could sign a waiver saying that if my dog got kennel cough, that I wouldn't come back and give them a problem. So there are places out there that will work with you on that. Thankfully, there are people and businesses that are starting to become aware of the fact that we're giving our animals too many chemicals. Okay, so the next one is the canine influenza. This one's really interesting. In 2009, they came up with this canine influenza vaccination. The problem with this vaccination is that they haven't changed the strain of the flu that they're vaccinating against. So like for people, they change the strain every year to try and predict it. The canine influenza is the H3N8, and it's the same as it was in 2009. And what are the chances that that flu is still that strain, and keeping our immune system strong, so they'll be well without the vaccinations. Okay, the lepto. This is a new vaccination as well. So the leptospirosis causes severe kidney or liver disease. It is not a core vaccine. It's not recommended for all dogs in all communities. The typical reaction to this are really scary. So one of the things that is a common sequel to this vaccination, so it's not something that you're going to expect, but it's not uncommon, is kidney failure. So the the kidneys try to filter out the toxins from the vaccinations, and this vaccination damages parts of the kidneys so that they can't filter it out, and that's kind of what I'm thinking happened to Charlie, that he got a lepto vaccination and he shouldn't have, and his kidneys failed like that. The next one is the Lyme vaccine, and what I'm reading is that the Lyme vaccine can cause Lyme disease symptoms. It has dangerous ingredients. Obviously, they all do. We went through that whole list of what's in the vaccinations. The interesting thing about Lyme disease is that most dogs who get Lyme disease don't ever have any of the Lyme disease symptoms. So that's one to really question whether or not your animal needs it. I came across a really interesting piece of information in the late 90s. There was a Lyme disease vaccination that was introduced for humans. It was called Lymerix, and from 1998 to the year 2000, it was on the market. The vaccine adverse event reporting system started receiving complaints, and it was pulled from the market because it was causing Lyme disease. It was causing facial paralysis, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, hypersensitivity, death, and seizures. That was the human Lyme vaccine. So now we have one for dogs. But again, something that you really want to look closely at why you would give it to them. Okay, so this one is really important to me, and something that I just can't believe when I see. Vaccinating sick dogs should never happen. All vaccines have inserts and labels that say that vaccines are only for healthy animals. That means if you have a pet that has chronic allergies, you have a pet that has been on antibiotics for an ear infection, let's see, I'm trying to see what else this says. You have a pet that is stressed from moving to a new home. You have a pet that has malnourishment. Whatever it is, pets should only be vaccinated when they're healthy. And so when I hear people talk about vaccinating unwell animals, then I think about the Hippocratic Oath that the vets took to do no harm, and those two things don't go together. But we as pet parents need to know that we cannot allow our pets to be vaccinated if they are dealing with some sort of unwellness. Okay, so we have vaccination safety basics. First one, again, only healthy animals. Revaccination, so those every annual or every 3 years, whatever it is, those revaccination decisions need to be made by the veterinarian and the pet parent. You can't just rely on your vet to do it, because they're just churning them in and out, and they're just giving everybody vaccinations. So let's see. Then I have lists of common, moderate vaccination reactions, and you can look at the chart on that. The common reactions are kind of like the flu. You know, if we get a flu shot and then we feel a little achy. The moderate reactions can include behavioral changes, which can be linked also to aggression. They can have weight loss, they can have lameness, they can have respiratory issues. It's going to cause suppression of the immune system. It can have abscesses. Oh, the list is scary. And then the severe reactions is what's really scary. They can develop sarcomas, which are cancerous, at the vaccination site. They can have anaphylaxis, arthritis, autoimmune, which so many of our pets have now because of the over-vaccination. It can affect the working of their thyroid. They can have seizures. It's very scary what the reactions can be. So I wanted to give a list of 13 safer ways to vaccinate your pets. The first one is learn to recognize the signs of adverse reaction. So in the short term, you want to see if they're having some sort of milder reaction like vomiting. And then long term, you're looking for the autoimmune, the seizures, allergies, skin disease. It's no wonder that our pets are as unwell as they are. So if you suspect that there was a problem, most vets are not going to say, oh, yeah, that probably was what caused it. A lot of times they don't say, yes, that's what caused it, because of the space of time between when the injection happened and when you come back. If you get the injection and 20 minutes later you're still in the office and there's a reaction, it's easier for them to see the connection. But if you get the shot and then you come back 9 days later and say, my dog is not feeling well, we're having these problems, they are not going to relate it unless they're a special vet. The other thing that's really important is if your animal has had a reaction to a vaccination in the past, they should not have another vaccination ever again in their life, because they are now extra sensitive to that, and it's cumulative, and they will have another reaction, and it might not be as mild as it was the first time. So the next is you can't vaccinate an unhealthy animal. It will exacerbate whatever their illness is, and it can do irreparable harm. The third one is ask for a rabies vaccination exemption. And there are localities, there are cities that will permit the exemption even if your state law doesn't permit the exemption. So again, this is where standing up for your pet is really important, and knowing what's going on so that you can explain it to your vet. All right, why is... Oh, that's why. Okay. All right, so the next one is something that I didn't know, and I love finding things that I didn't know. Don't vaccinate against rabies within 3 weeks of other vaccinations or medications for parasites. Multiple vaccines given at once greatly increase the chance of reactions. Yeah. Multiple vaccines are especially risky for small dogs. Yeah. It's really important. They like to bundle the vaccinations. They'll put 5 vaccinations in one shot. You spread those out. You have them give the vaccination separately if you have to have it, and you put a couple weeks in between them, and that is less of an assault on your animal's immune system. Make sure your dog is getting the correct vaccine. So the rabies has a 1 year and a 3 year, and you want to make sure that they get the right one. For puppies will get the 1 year, and then after that they'll get the 3 year. So make sure that they're not getting the 1 year every year. Vaccinate at the safest time. I love this. I didn't think of this either. Vaccinate in the morning, early in the week, and don't leave the area for at least an hour. That way, if there's some sort of reaction, you're right there and you can get help from the vet. You don't want to have a reaction occur when the office is closed and then you have no help. Ask for a thimerosal-free vaccine. You want the rabies shot that does not have the mercury. All right. Find a vet that's trained in homeopathy and have them vaccinate your dog. They have certain homeopathic remedies that they can give before, during, and after the vaccinations to help lessen the ill effects of the vaccinations on your pet. Report all vaccine reactions to your vet. So even if they don't want to take it, you need to make them write it up, number one, so that you have it in their file, so that you can show that they cannot have another vaccination because they had a reaction. You want to have your vet sign the paperwork, and you also want to get the lot number of that vaccine in the report. Don't vaccinate within a week of travel. Again, if you're going to be traveling, it can be 7 to 10 days before the reaction happens. You don't want to be away from home when something happens. Keep copies of vaccination records and titer tests in your car in case something happens and your animal gets, God forbid, hit by a car and taken to the vet or whatever. This way you can show them immediately what the status of the vaccinations are, so that they don't get revaccinated on accident. Don't administer a rabies vaccine yourself. I don't know why they would even have to say that, but they did. And then finally, support the Rabies Challenge Fund, which is Dr. Jean Dodds and Dr. Robert Schultz are working on getting a change implemented where the boosters for for the rabies is, instead of 1 year and 3 years, that they're pushing it out to 5 years and 7 years. which would be a much better schedule than what they have now. All right. Titer testing is the best way to go for not revaccinating your animal. Assuming that the antibodies stay in the animal's body for the rest of their lives, you get a blood test. The blood is analyzed for the antibodies, and it shows that there are still antibodies, which means that the animal still has protection from that disease, and they don't need to have revaccination. So they're even doing titer testing now for the rabies vaccination, which is a newer thing. Dr. John Robb at Protect the Pets has a ridiculously reasonably priced service of $75 to have all 4 of the core vaccinations, the blood tested for that. And so literally getting the blood drawn and the titer for those 4 vaccinations is cheaper than getting the 4 vaccinations, and way safer for your animal. The other thing that can be considered are nosodes, which is a homeopathic remedy that people are looking at in place of vaccinations. So I'm not going to go into that, but that is another option. And then, of course, the essential oils we use for helping support the immune system and the discomfort before, during, and after any vaccinations that need to be given. So why should you detox your pet after the vaccinations? You want to help the body get rid of the ingredients that can cause cancer, can cause allergies, joint disease. This was really interesting. Researchers found distemper vaccine in torn cruciate ligaments and diseased joints. What does that tell you? So you want to do the detox as soon as your dog is vaccinated. Do not wait until they show symptoms. Detox protocols consist of probiotics, homeopathy, omega-3 fatty acids, microalgae, garlic, and leafy greens. All of those things are really easy. You can do that with their diet. All right, so to wrap up, be prepared when you go to your vet, and be your pet's health advocate. Do not be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to say no. Rabies is the only vaccination that's required by law. All of the rest of them are discretionary. It's your pet. If you decide they don't need it, it's okay. Say no. Because we are all here to figure out ways to help our pets be healthier. Share with your friends. Let your friends know about this discussion. They can decide if they want to hear more about it, or if they're just not interested in walking down that path. And knowledge is power. Never stop digging. Do not assume that the professionals know everything. There's constant information, constant research, constant new medications or new protocols that are coming out, and there's no way that every doctor can know everything that's going on. So I hope this information was helpful. I apologize that I wasn't able to do it with the slideshow, because that actually would have been easier for you to follow. I hope you were able to look at the album that I just put up with the slides. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you have comments, if you have experiences with this type of thing, if you have information to add that that I missed, I just really want to provoke thought and get you thinking about why am I doing this, and should I do this? How should I do this? Because the vaccinations are part of what is causing our animals to be sick and die younger. All right? I'm out. Have a good one. Bye.